Hello, everybody.
Ram, thank you for meeting at the rendezvous point. Please debrief the people on our guest, Sheryl Briggs.
That sounds, when you say debrief, it almost means like you're taking somebody's underwear off.
That's only when I'm talking to you alone. When we're in this setting,
True.
we are going through our reconnaissance file.
We're indoctrinating Sheryl. So guys, ladies, gentlemen, anybody that's listening to this across the great state of New Jersey on your drive today, our guest today is somebody.
Hey man, we are over 100,000 downloads.
And what, like 98,000 countries?
Three
countries.
No, I don't know how many countries.
Sheryl, we're really popular in Bahrain.
That's where Ram has a feet pic account. He posts pictures of his feet for adult men to hang on their mirror in their bedrooms.
Sometimes this job doesn't pay very well. So Sheryl and I worked together for a little bit of time, about a year and a half ago at this point.
And that's all it took. That's all it took. So guys, go to 4weekstothebeach.com.
Right now, go and sign up.
A Ram.
Sign up, don't wait. I brought Sheryl on because she's an unconventional story. Unfortunately, in my experience in the past, client success happens almost inevitably from the working relationship while you're with the coach. And what very often happens when people leave coaching is they unravel and they go back to whatever they were programmed behaviors were prior to meeting Jimmy or I or any other coach. And that's tragic and it sucks. And we don't take it personally, but we also know that we have no control over that. But it's no less upsetting to us to know that the time spent with us wasn't truly taken advantage of. And I think what this conversation is going to do is it's going to speak volumes about who Sheryl is as a person. And if you can understand what characteristics led her to sustaining and actually getting even more results on her own, hopefully that steers you in the right direction on your journey to make some better choices and to know that either if you're in a coaching relationship with somebody, take more advantage of them and really extract as much knowledge and practicality from them that you can. And if you're not, you're doing this on your own. It's not impossible to do on your own either. So Sheryl, thank you for joining us today. I know that you're a busy lady and obviously there's a lot of guitars back there. You could be playing the guitar, but you're playing with us instead.
That's what I was looking at.
So we'll start with what did life look like prior to you and I meeting?
When I at 66, so let's say I was 64, 65, when I just decided something's got to change because I was pushing 220 and I was uncomfortable and I looked terrible. It's apart from just what you look like. I just felt awful. I started doing my own research of finding, I know I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. So I looked local and got one of those, and I don't mean to insult anybody. I got one of those gym rats that comes with the gym membership, and I showed up and I did what I was told, and he looked at all my food, but then he wasn't trained to train. And I tore both my rotator cuffs and biceps in that experience. And so after healing through that, I flipped the other side. Well, I don't need a man. I'm going to go find me some soft woman who's just going to tell me what to eat because I already got this handled. And that went to some kind of weird intuitive eating nightmare that just, it didn't, again, don't mean to insult those that works for, but it seemed crazy to me.
Well,
so I started
talk about that, Sheryl. I think it's important because I think the idea of intuitive eating is a very sexy idea, right? Like eat whatever you feel like eating and then
feel
eat
like
until you're full. And that's the problem is most of us don't feel like eating lean grilled chicken, asparagus, and white rice. We feel like eating fucking Jersey Mike's and pizza and burgers and donuts.
Well, coming from a female perspective, we're emotionally driven. So if you tell me I eat what I feel like, it's just not going to end well at all. It's not. And I don't know how it works for people. I really don't. Maybe they're just stronger than I am, or they're just really disciplined, or they're using extra help. I don't know, but it didn't work for me at all. And so
how old was the trainer roughly?
In her 30s. And it was working for her. Which great for her. It probably still is, but for me, there is there is no, I needed the rules, I needed the definition, and I needed the numbers. Because just like keto, that can go offline really quick when you're told, eat all the bacon and butter you want. That doesn't work for me. Maybe it works for others, but for me, it was just, I needed structure, and I knew I needed to find somebody who was an expert in structure. And that's when I found Aram.
And that's when everything changed.
No. Now I'm confused. I was following along. You said you found an expert.
Yeah, well, okay.
Fuck off.
I'm just confused. I'm just trying to understand. I feel like we're missing something here. You said expert and you found Aram. I'm just making sure that we're using the correct terminology.
I know you guys, I know you specialize in female connections, because I can read your posts and know that you're talking to females for the most part. But as a female, I know that I needed somebody who wasn't gonna take any of my BS that I was gonna lay down for, did you eat right? Did you do all that? Because I can do that all day long.
Tell us why you enjoy mansplaining so much.
It's I knew he would hold me. Yeah, I know he'd hold me accountable, and he held me accountable in a way that worked for me. It worked for me.
Cheryl,
how did it work?
Cheryl, let me just share some insights about what she's saying here, because I think that Cheryl doesn't give herself enough credit. There's a difference between the people that can just blindly execute a plan that you give them. Like, let's say, for example, I was a meal plan writer. If I wrote Cheryl a meal plan, she would have followed it to the T. That's just how she's wired. If I told her to do 3 sets of 12 squats, she would have done 3 sets of 12 squats. And if she could have done an extra rep on each set, she would have. That's the type of person that she is. Very, very rarely are we getting people out of the box who are that compliant and also willing to work a little bit harder than even being asked of.
But I want to see what was the difference. So, I mean, Cheryl, you said that he held you accountable in a way that worked for you. What was the difference?
I had to show him my food logs. He was logged in, so there was no. Okay. I mean, you can cheat those things all day long if you want to, but week after week, if I'm not showing up with some kind of result, he knew I was not doing what I was supposed to do. That experience is what I needed, because he wasn't falling for it.
So you felt by logging in, we both use Chronometer. You felt by logging in and him being able to see the entries held a greater level of accountability for you versus just maybe reporting casually what you took in.
Well, and he wanted to see movement, and you can't fake this either. You can try, you can do this all day long.
I attach it to my dog and I play fetch. And then I report that to Aram. That's how I do it. I find a deer in the wild in my backyard and I duct tape it to it.
Like a tracking
and then I chase it around. Yeah.
Well, I also think that
you're right.
The problem oftentimes when people come to us, and this is something that you were suffering from before our work together, is that you didn't really have, outside of work, you didn't have much of a structure. There wasn't a plan to eat. There wasn't a plan to exercise. And it was really just like, if it happened, it happened. If I ate whatever. If I trained however. If I moved with really not much intention. So what my job was to see what you're doing well, which I think in general, your discipline is there. You didn't have a problem with that aspect of it. You were curious. You were participatory and participating, meaning you actually wanted to participate. And you weren't just of one of these people who was just tell me what to do. Because that was your previous experience prior to meeting me, was people told you what to do, but then there was really no follow through. There was no educational component. There was no conversation. There was no evaluation. There was no assessment of anything. So it was just like no data collection and then no subsequent action taken after that. So you were just kind of still left to doing whatever you were used to doing. And I think that was probably why structure made more sense for you.
I came to you thinking I didn't eat enough. I really didn't. I would tell you, I don't really eat much. And then when we started to really tear through the data, it was, oh no, I eat just fine.
God loves the internet. The messaging. It's funny because it's like whatever messaging you get inundated with, you start going, yeah,
that's true.
That's me. Yeah. I want to hear what led to being 220. How long you that was that your life growing up? Is it something that happened at a certain age where the weight started to gain?
2013, things kind of went sideways here. I own this business, and things went sideways, and we had a couple family issues, and I noticed that it would start to click up. And then by 2018, it was like, what do I weigh today? Let's go find out. And it just kept going higher and higher until it started to really scare me. I thought, I'll never be 200. I'll never be 200. And when that passed quickly, it was like, I'll never be 210 pounds. And then I was pushing 220. I thought, what the heck's going on? It scared me.
And prior to that, so you're then 2013, maybe early mid 50s.
Mm-hmm.
You were pretty much always feeling pretty good, healthy looking, all that kind of stuff. Weight was never an issue leading up to that. Never an issue.
There was always 10 or 20 I could have lost, and there was ways to do that. When you're that young, you can skip a meal or two and you'll see it right away. But then when cortisol and stress starts to kick in and you're not sleeping because work's bad and everything starts to pile on, it got out of hand. It felt fast. Maybe on a calendar it wasn't, but boy, it sure felt like it.
To all you 40-year-olds listening, that would be a Rom, and the mid 40-year-olds like me who are saying, welcome to 40. She just referred to mid 50s as when you're that young. Just want to point that out. We got a lot of time and a lot can change. I think it's awesome. I always like knowing that background. If it was somebody that was struggling forever, because some people, I think they start to look at someone and go, well, it's easy for you because you are an athlete or you always this or that, or they don't realize like, hey, this was, 8 years of slowly gaining. I mean, that's creating a lifestyle. It doesn't even matter what your past was at that point. Sometimes it can be even harder because you're looking back. So I just always like to know that kind of stuff. Like what was the history before that? But I think what you said too is what most people deal with, especially with the way messaging is I always had 10 or 20 to lose. And you just do it and then it would kind of come back and then just do it and come back, but it never felt out of control. And people, I think, really stay in that limbo for like their whole life a lot of times where it's, I can drop it and then comes back, and they're like never happy. I think that's a tough spot to be, but you can see there's a drastic difference from what you were just describing to the way you are now, which is cool.
The primary difference between weight loss and weight management is understanding behavior and auditing behavior and lifestyle and everything, and all those other components of sleep, of do you have because it's really, we've already seen an insurmountable amount of evidence in this country that we have no problem losing fat. I mean, Jesus, I think it's almost immediate for most people. If they slash calories, you'll lose weight. If you start upping activity significantly, you lose weight. But what happens when you stop doing those things? Because like what Sheryl just described, life became life for a certain period of time. Her responsibilities took her prioritization away from herself and placed it into other places like work, like family, like relationships, whatever else. So all the available time she had wasn't being allocated towards self-care, towards a routine, towards a structure. It was
to emotional eating. Yeah. Obviously, like emotional eating and drinking.
Shittier sleep. Yeah. I mean, you were never really much of a drinker.
No. Food was enough, but Aram was the first one to really push me into going to find somebody to talk to getting therapy. I never felt I needed it. And then when he really started to encourage me, I searched out for somebody, and that seemed to come alongside what I was trying to do and added to it, so that it's not like I woke up with some breakthrough. That didn't happen, but at least it's somebody to filter through all of it. The mind is like 80% of this, and he helped me get to that place, which I appreciated.
Tell us about that, because I think a lot of people don't know how to take the first step, and I don't think we ever really asked, what were you Googling? Were you looking for somebody local? What made you pick the person that you picked as a therapist? Was it online? Any of those things?
It was definitely online. He just came recommended from a friend, but you don't have to meet in person, just like I didn't have to meet Aram in person.
Thank God.
And but I did once. I went down and worked out with him once. It was, he's really
she's
intimidating
in California,
in person.
So it's, Well, Jimmy's not intimidating. Jimmy saw me at my worst when I had a peg leg, so he's not scared of me.
I cleaned his butt crack for him, and I was like, "But your hand can reach back there." And he's like, "But my leg hurts," and he still made me do it.
Yeah,
And I did it.
Jimmy's a good friend, Sheryl. He's very rare that we find friends this good who can live in a completely different side of the country in a different state, and I can still hate him as much as I do, but respect him as much as I do.
Yes, I still don't know why you didn't reshare my story. You still have time where I talk about how I hate you and your conference is the best.
I think you guys
Cheryl,
need a little therapy.
Couples
Maybe
therapy.
therapy might be good for you guys.
Couples.
Cheryl, while he had one Achilles tendon and he's hobbing around, he made me breakfast.
I did.
Don't tell me that we need therapy. Look
exactly.
At,
See?
angel. He is an angel. He's chopping up little sausages, cooking me breakfast.
While I was on the second floor of an Airbnb that he very, very selfishly got, knowing I couldn't make it up the stairs.
I did not. There was a bed downstairs you could have. And the beds were very loud. When you rolled over, it was like somebody was
that place was
just crumbling plastic in your ear. I needed earplugs.
That place felt like a halfway house, but anyway, we digress.
We digress.
No, but
so from a recommendation from a friend, you brought it up to a friend. You were vulnerable enough to bring something up to a friend. They recommended this person, and it worked out for you.
It helped. These are all components, and he just gave me the components. I mean, simple things like sleep. I don't sleep very well, so we worked on that, and then water, and we brought that up. So it's just all the components had to come together, and that was a big component. Otherwise, I'd still be emotionally eating or doing it I'll do it on Monday. That whole mindset needed to be untangled because that's something we all get trapped in.
Did anything really get uncovered or discovered in therapy, or were there action steps in therapy that? I'm
not sharing that with you out there.
No.
Oh yes, let me tell you what I shared.
It's not with us.
No.
No. I'm saying like if there was any, you don't even have to say what it is, but it's like yes, something was uncovered, and then this made a difference with the way that I treated myself.
Sure, it's amazing what stuff you hang on to through childhood or through early adolescence that you don't realize is stuck to you like some kind of parasite, and you have to get those things off. Otherwise, you're sitting in front of the TV eating a bag of stuff and you're not hungry and you don't understand it. It's not boredom. Something else is going on. So when you work through all that, or why you don't want to work out when you know you should, the voices in your head have to be dealt with. And I did, and I appreciate him for that. I wouldn't have gone otherwise.
Yeah, and I'm assuming a lot of resistance through that process.
Well, it took me till I was 58 before I went, or 50, however old I was when we decided that's what I needed. That's how long it took.
Yeah. It's awesome. And I ask those things because I think people are afraid. They avoid that stuff. They deal with things forever. They think, oh, if I see it there, it'll be easy. And not realizing just like the work in the gym is difficult. It's challenging. You got to lift heavy stuff. You got to sweat and all that stuff. I mean, all that internal stuff is difficult, and people, I think, they just avoid it. They distract themselves throughout their life, and then they're wondering why, and they think, how come going to the gym and eating better isn't doing anything? So that's why I asked that.
You guys post a lot of not quotes, but things to think about. They're brief. They're just enough to contemplate and ponder. And one of the things I read a while back, is the year's going to pass. It's going to pass no matter what you do. And time is just so brief that next year, who do I want to be? Where do I want to be? And that was kind of like a focus for me, still is through this process, that I don't want to be December 31st, writing down a bunch of lists and going, lose weight at the top again, because without a plan, it'll be there December 31st next year, because I didn't have any structure or plan. I know this sounds so cliche, but it's those things that you guys share.
There's a reason they're cliche.
Yeah, they work.
Yeah. It's like stereotypes about Russians. There's a reason.
Or Asians or blacks. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But I think what people really need to understand, especially about Sheryl's story, is that this is a 60-year-old woman who made a decision to work on her mental health because she knew that was the drawback to her physical achievements. And how many of people listen to this podcast? How many people consume our content? It's not the right time. I can't start right now. I can't, they don't want to address things because I remember sitting down, talking to people about my inner demons and problems. It is fucking heavy shit, Sheryl. You, even to the point where when being asked about it, what was your initial reaction? I don't want to fucking share that with you guys because it's heavy shit, and bringing that stuff up to the surface, when it bubbles up hard, and it brings you back to some very uncomfortable times. But avoidance is the easiest way to get stuck in a trap that you'll never get out of. That's really it's just self-imposed. It's a self-imposed prison of comfort or perceived comfort, which then doesn't allow for any type of growth potential whatsoever. Then you sit there wondering, squandering every minute of every fucking day. And then you turn into that 75, 80-year-old looking back, wondering, where did the time go and what the hell did I do with it outside of work and have a family? I didn't actually understand who I was. I didn't know what made me happy. I went through the motions more often than not. But here's somebody who took a proactive step relatively late in life when most people don't try to do anything new, don't try to make themselves voluntarily uncomfortable, because what are most 60, 70-year-olds doing? Like, I've lived, life has been whatever. I'm just going to go mail it in now until the end. You actively chose to challenge yourself. And this is why now, fast forward a year, so 220 was the high. Where are we at now?
My weight? 165 this morning.
Holy fucking shit, folks listening. Has nothing to do with training and nutrition. I mean, yes, it does. But indirectly, where did it start? It started with somebody making a decision to get the shit out of her head that was clogging up her behavior. That's all it was. That's literally it. It was, and that was way more uncomfortable than preparing food. That was way more uncomfortable than going through multiple orthopedic injuries that she had to deal with, and still kept working out and still kept, okay, I can't do overhead presses. I'm going to do a lateral raise. I'm going to do something else with my other shoulder because I know that still works. I'm going to still work my legs. She relentlessly just didn't stop trying to do something while still working on the mental health aspect of it. But how many people at the first sign of resistance, at the first sign of trouble, at the first sign of discomfort, throw it all away and say, fuck it, it's not going to work for me and this doesn't work, when really you just never even gave it a chance.
That's where you
I
go,
love
Sheryl,
that he gets
just
like
say,
that.
yeah.
Well, I'm passionate about people who actually take a proactive approach in their own health. And it's just so rare that when you actually have somebody like this, like Sheryl didn't lose 60 pounds
any weight with a
working with me.
She didn't lose any weight.
She lost 60 pounds after leaving my care because she took the skill set that she gained and the confidence that she gained, and she fucking ran with it. That's all. That's all that happened. So I want you to talk about what happened after we stopped working together. And then what did life start to look like for you after that?
And tell us why you fired him. What was the main incentive to release it? I'm just kidding.
Because I was injured and coming back from injury, and I needed form, and I needed it looked at so closely that I needed that in-person one-on-one trainer going, no, your back's out just a little bit. Your feet are in the wrong place. And that was hard to get through a video, especially filming my own video. And that's the only reason I left, is because I had to get stronger that way.
What I love about what you just said is, and this is something I work with in a group that I do, this victim mindset and these self-limiting beliefs. People are paralyzed by self-limiting beliefs and this victim mindset, whether they realize it or not. And part of that victim mindset, which I've talked about, is the martyr who's like, does everything for everybody else. Mm-hmm. I'm not a victim. I'm doing everything for everybody else. Well, then you inevitably become the victim because you can never take care of yourself. You recognize that there was an issue that you needed and you took action on it. You didn't go, it just takes weeks to get feet. Like I remember having a virtual coach, and it was like a month before my form was like the right way, the way that he wanted it. And you were like, this is the issue that I have, and I'm going to find out a way to do it. A lot of people would be like, I'll just keep doing this, or I can't afford the in-person personal trainer, or that's a lot of money and blah, blah, blah. And obviously I don't know your financial situation, but you took action on something that you recognized that you needed, instead of being like, it's not happening because blah, 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 which so many people do. So I just wanted to commend you for, one, the awareness of what you needed, and then two, taking action on it. And there's no victim attitude in anything that you just said, which is awesome.
And she had multiple reasons to stop multiple times, like between literally at one point riddled with injury, not only in her upper body, but her lower body as well, like discomfort during squats, lower back pain. shit that I hear about almost every day that makes people just sit in a chair all day and never even try going to the gym. Yet she just kept trying. She's like, well, I'm going to try to work around my pain. I just want to gain enough knowledge to not hurt myself any further. And that's all it really was. It was just a matter of I know what to stay away from. I know what to lean into. So talk about some of that stuff. Like when you were going through the injury process and you were still finding the strength and the motivation, if you want to call it that, to train, where was all that stuff coming from?
Women my age, and I'll just say anywhere in the late 60s, coming up on 70s. I don't know if they do that, but I do this. When I'm in a group of women, I look around and see where they are physically and what they're doing and what they're into. And I see a lot of women that have just sort of given up. They're pushing the basket through the store, not because they're putting stuff in it, because it's helping them go through the store at 60, late 60s, 70s, and they're becoming exactly what they've created. And I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to need help getting up the stairs. I want to run up the stairs. And I could see my future by just looking out at peers. And I didn't want that for me.
I just hit mark clip, which means it creates a little clip. I love what you just said. They are becoming exactly what they have created.
That's it.
What a fucking lie.
That's it. But that's exactly the reality. But,
yeah.
But like if you say that to somebody in our
but the victim doesn't realize
culture.
The victim doesn't realize that they created it.
No.
They're the victim of it. And that line right there I think is so powerful for people to recognize that you become exactly what you create.
You see it every day. I watch and I sit there and I bleed for people every single day when I walk through a grocery store and I see the same shit that you see, Sheryl. And I have a woman right now that I'm working with, 69 years old. She started with me and she went from taking an average of 2,000 steps a day, if that was even a good day for her, to now she's doing 7,000 to 10,000 steps a day. Granted, every once in a while with some assistance from the cart, like you just referenced, because she was so inactive for so long. But that's at least getting her the fuck out of her house and off her couch where she's lived for the last decade. And the whole point of all of this, folks, if you're listening to this and you're taking anything out of it, is it's never too late to start. I don't give a shit if you're 70 years old listening to this. There's no reason why you can't learn something new. There's no reason why you can't challenge yourself or your old belief systems. There's no reason why you can't hire a therapist, hire a coach, get healthier, learn how to eat better, learn how to exercise in a gym with weights and machines. All of this stuff actually becomes easier as you age. Why? Because you have more goddamn time to do it with. And what the fuck else are you going to actually do outside of take care of yourself? Because what I see in my parents' over 50 community in Florida is there's two sets of people. There's the 85-year-olds on their bike that are cruising around the neighborhood that have friends and that do activities. And then there's the people that never leave their apartment and they die inside of that apartment by themselves with their cats. So you have the choice to be either the bike riding 85-year-old or the litter box 85-year-old. And that's a choice. And that starts in your 40s, not because you're trying to lose weight, not because you're trying to fit into a bikini, but because you're trying to actually have a quality of life that you're proud of. And you don't have to depend on anybody else as you age. Like Sheryl doesn't have to depend on anybody at this point. Even with orthopedic injuries and even with problems, she's going to be able to live an independent life. Yeah, granted, probably with some aches and pains and some arthritis, but who the fuck doesn't have that? But she'll be able to manage it because she's got strength and she understands what to do. And she'll never stop going to the gym now. And she'll never stop working out because she made it a habit at 66. While you guys are struggling to even incorporate it into your life at 40, because the only reason why you're doing it is because you're trying to look a certain way. And that's the biggest problem, is that when your why isn't very deep, because that's a very superficial reason to do anything. And don't get me wrong, I think there's nothing wrong with vanity goals, right? Like obviously I'm sure now that you're 60 pounds lighter than you were at 220, life is probably a little bit more enjoyable. You probably like what you see in the mirror more. All these things are probably changed and morphed in the right direction. But correct me if I'm wrong, that isn't the only reason why you continue to do it.
No, I think nothing's more eye-opening than pre-boarding at an airport, because while you're waiting with, and I don't mean this in a cruel way, but the people that are pre-boarding for for the most part, are pre-boarding because of their health, not because of an injury, and that they're not that much older than I am. Some of them are younger, and they've just let themselves deteriorate to the fact that, okay, I got to get on before you because it takes me twice as long. I'm not doing that.
If you want, I know you probably have no reason to go there. If you really want an even more powerful experience, go to Disney World or Disneyland and see the people of all ages in wheelchairs, and they're not disabled. You know, like that kind of thing. That was eye-opening to me the first time I went to Disney World as an adult. I'm like, the amount of people of varying ages, younger than me, in wheelchairs with weight-related issues is insane. I wanted to ask you about what is different, like just what is your general mindset or attitude or way that you view the way that you treat yourself now? Obviously, you weren't treating yourself well before that when you put the weight on, but you said you would lose the 20 or lose the 10 or 20 and you gain it back, lose the 10 or 20, gain it back. What's the difference now? What's your view on why you're doing what you're doing or how you treat yourself or why you show up every day? Any of that?
Well, like you've said, like you've both said, knowledge is power. And now I understand the mechanics behind weight loss, that muscle burns. And if I put on more muscle, I burn more. I have more energy. All those things are an integral part now. The cheat days, I don't use that kind of terminology like cheat day or bad food. If I really want it, I can have it, but sugar is such a thing for me. I just prefer not to. So the mindset of all that turned around, I'll start Monday or weekends are free and all that stuff that got me in such trouble because you were constantly recycling and starting over. It's just better just to stay on track, which is why I came to RUM to begin with, is to get back on track. So once you're there, once you understand the mechanics, you understand what macros are, and it's intimidating at first. It really is. That's a lot of knowledge for someone who's never heard of a macro. But once you understand that those are tools that you can use and you have all the tools, I don't understand why somebody wouldn't use those. And I'll have them forever until I'm no longer alive. I will understand the mechanics of muscle gain and macros and protein needs and water. And I just wish I would have known it 20 years ago.
What have been the changes in your life outside of weight loss? How's your life different in the way that you approach things, weight lifting, any area?
When you're a woman at 60 something, on even maybe even younger, and you put on a lot of weight, you become invisible to people. You become something that gets pushed out of the way. There's no clothes for you. There's nothing cute for you out there. Social media is not recognizing you. You just become sad and kind of almost transparent to the people around you because you don't seem to be seen. So when you start to feel better about yourself, that's like the first step. Feel better about yourself. You stand a little taller. You just look at life a little differently until before you know it, you're walking different and you're getting involved in stuff you wouldn't have gotten involved with before. And you might actually be in a photo, which I have never ever done. I hate getting my photos taken. And there's a lot of women out there that'll avoid it, like not even showing up at an event just because they know someone's going to take a picture. But when everything starts to change and you get the tools to use, and it doesn't take much of a difference, just a couple pounds coming off tells you, I can do this. And it sets the whole thing in motion. Just a little bit of success breeds more success, as you guys have said. And it just, you have to get on that path and stay on it.
I do want to say about the feeling invisible, and then as you were losing weight, having more confidence and you show up different and have that kind of stuff. I think some people, they think if I lose the weight, then I'll matter or then I'll be important. But what you said, whether you realize it or not, it was the process of losing weight that gave you that confidence that made you walk different and look different. So a lot of times, I think for people to understand, it's the confidence, because there's people that are overweight that have confidence and they're still going to stand out in the room. People are going to talk to them and this and that. But it's like over time, we start to feel more and more insecure. We're not treating ourselves well. And we make ourselves invisible. It's not just our body. That's my viewpoint. So as you started to make those changes and feel more confident, you're presenting yourself in a different way, which is cool. And it all goes hand in hand. It's like that internal work, the external work. Like some people, they do that work in the gym and they're still miserable. Like it's never enough, you know? And there's some people where you're like, why are you so confident? you shouldn't easy, Lizzo. Like things like that. So it's this weird, I don't know. It's like this dichotomy of it, but I think part of it is, hey, show up with confidence and still do that work so that you can actually have a better, you know, life and be able to enjoy life more. Because you're in a healthier place.
It's all mental.
That's my 2 cents. Yeah.
It's a mental thing. When you're unhappy, whether it's because you're in an unsatisfying relationship or you're overweight, every morning is that. It's there. You don't dream about it. You certainly don't dream about it. When you wake up, it's like, I got to start over now. Yeah. And it's miserable. And I just didn't want to be there anymore. And now when I wake up, I have the plan. Okay, what are we doing today? I got to be at the gym at 7:30. So what am I going to eat afterwards? And it's not a chore. They're not rules. They're my life now. And it's just better.
I want to ask you what's changed as far as like your friend group, because obviously you probably still have friends your age or older. What's been their perception of you and your journey as you've been going down this road? Have you disconnected with people? Have you talked to them about this stuff?
Oh, I don't pay any attention to them. I know that's...
Wow, you're a great friend, Sheryl. I'm going to forward this to all of them.
No, I don't depend on them.
Have any of them, I think it's like, has anything changed, even, or what things have happened is maybe a little bit of what Aram's asking. Like, have people said, like, what's your secret? Yeah. What are you doing? Or you're like, great, you're so different. Or can I join you? Have any of those things happened? Or have people kind of slowly remove themselves from your life, right? Or vice versa?
I work out alone. I did this alone. I'm not one of those, let's all join a Facebook group and have lunch together. So I don't have those experiences. And I know there's women out there like me. They don't want to be your best friend. They don't want to walk with you. They just want to do the work. So for me, I get asked all the time, how'd you do it? But nobody wants the answer that I give.
No, I think you should start a group of women who hate walking with people. And you guys all walk together. And it's like, we don't talk. That'd be the most fantastic group ever. It's a group of women that get together who hate walking with people because we just want to get the work done. And they're like, but you're getting together. Shut the fuck up. And it's like, like just the irony of a group of women that don't want to be in a group. We all have this in common, so we're going to team up and walk together.
This wasn't a group activity for me. This was something I had to do, and I know a lot of women need that support, and good for them. It's out there. It's very much out there, but it wasn't.
Did you ever feel or notice any kind of resentment from friends? Like,
I was the fat girl in the group. I was the biggest one.
So now do you notice any changes? Like, is there a little bit of resentment or a little like passive aggressive comments, or do you actually have good friends?
You don't like women very much, do you?
I love women.
We're not that bad.
No, I'm wondering because this is stuff that some people deal with, and it makes them go back.
Oh, those are bad. It
makes them step. Correct. I mean, I had a client where she's like, I have this friend like, you're not fun anymore because you're not drinking. And then she pulls back into that. And that was a huge struggle for her because she didn't want to lose these friendships, but they're making her feel bad for her decisions.
That's too bad. That's why
it's horrible. And I mean, these are conversations, that I'm having with people. So, and I'm just like a detail thing. Like I want to know all that kind of stuff because sometimes people can start to go, well, it's different. Because it's different for them because this, and then they start to use that as a reason to maybe resort back to old ways. So that's why I'm asking, only because there's people listening and might start to have those thoughts and wonder those things. So it's a testament.
I do get asked. I get asked all the time, how'd you do it? Because everybody's looking for me to tell them I took this shot or I took that pill and overnight I look like this. But for the most part, real friends, they want the best for you. And if you
Yeah.
don't have those, go find some of those.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So
I think it's great. I think women right now, or even men, but who are hearing what you're saying and they're like, that's not my friends. Take an inventory.
yeah,
You
Yeah.
know,
yeah.
that's what that reminds me. And I want to hear what Rob has to ask, but there was somebody who asked me how I got my son swimming before he was 3 years old. He was out of swim. He's at like 2.5 in swimming. They're like, how'd you get him swimming? And their kids were older and still not swimming. And I told her, she goes, well, I'm not doing that. It's like the exact same thing because it's scary, you know, getting a kid swimming. You're letting them go. You're letting them go underwater, all this kind of stuff. But it's the exact same thing. I just remember thinking like, don't ask. Like, do you think there's some easy way? Oh, we just we did like a little blessing and
Thoughts and prayers, and then
he
swimming.
swam. Anyway,
So what is your so when people do ask you, and I'm sure you get it all the time now, what is your answer to them?
You have to work out and you have to watch what you eat. It's not a new thing. I could probably go back 100 years and they're saying the same thing. It's
Mark clip.
but
Yeah.
but defining what that means, it's so vague. Well, you just work out
Yes.
and eat better, but you have to understand the science behind it. Without that understanding, I'd still be trapped in where I was because I didn't understand the mechanics of it.
And that's where we don't have an information problem. There's plenty of it out there. It's just how the fuck do you take that and apply it to yourself, your situation, your lifestyle, your schedule, your preferences, your tastes, your obstacles, your traumas. And that's where it makes it's just never made sense to me to watch people that have resources not utilize the full strength of their resources. You know what I mean? Like if you're a 40, 50-year-old adult, you have fucking money for coaching. I'm sorry. Like you do. I don't give a shit how you slice it. One dinner out a week you sacrifice, the fucking handbag that you keep buying over and over again, you sacrifice.
Subscriptions, the paying for food delivery versus going to the grocery store. There's 1,000 things, but right away, most people are like, I can't afford that because they're not even willing to look at what they can cut to be able to afford it.
Or even just the scary part I think really does come down to is I'm about to spend money, but then I still have to do something myself.
And it's an unguaranteed
right.
result.
Like if you want,
you buy a car, you got the car.
Yeah, you want you don't want to mow your lawn, you pay somebody else to do it. That's something off your plate. Whereas when you hire somebody like us, we're essentially mentors. We're guiding you into a direction that you still have to then go and act and do the uncomfortable, relatively hard shit of putting something on a stove and walking into a gym and learning how to use this machine.
But we were okay paying for college.
Right.
You're paying, especially nowadays, people are paying 30 to 50, 60 grand a year to do work.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think maybe that was such a traumatic experience for people. They're like, I'm not paying to do work again.
I really do believe the people that are unwilling to invest in something like coaching, they're unwilling to invest in it because they've probably had to do something that's been asked of them before and they didn't follow through. So it just really just comes down to is I know I'm going to burn the money because I'm not going to do it. And if that's the case, more power to you. I actually respect the shit out of those types of people who won't spend the money because they won't do the work. For some people, spending the money catalyzes the work because they're like, well, shit, now I have some incentive. Which even then, it's not strong enough to make it stick for most people. Because if you ask them, if they stop spending the money, they stop doing the work. So that's why Sheryl's on this podcast. That's why she's here today, 60 pounds lighter, way after I was gone, because she ran with the information. She built on the knowledge base and she made it a lifestyle deep into her 60s. So I don't give a shit that you're 40 or 50 if you're listening to this and you have this fun little narrative in your head how it's too late or you can't do it or you don't have enough time. I promise you do. It's just not that important to you. And if that's the case, then stop bitching about your problem. Nobody in your household wants to hear about it anymore. Your friends who you're going out to brunch with every weekend don't want to hear about it anymore. We as coaches have tried to help you 1,000 different ways for free. You don't want to take the advice there. So at some point, you just have to shut the fuck up and admit that it's not important to me. Sheryl got to a point where the pain that she was going through mentally and physically every day was the reason why she decided to make the uncomfortable choice to go and through all the work and the effort that she had to then do, which now doesn't feel like work or effort anymore.
I want to say that 50 turns to 60 in a heartbeat, and 60 into 66 overnight. So if you're thinking that someday, it's amazing how fast it goes. And then it's harder. It's harder for me because, like you said, 66 doesn't move like 42 does. So, but I'm not going to be facing the same problem at 72. So I'm good.
I don't know why I didn't realize this, but very recently I heard somebody explaining why time goes faster as we get older. And it's basically every year is a smaller percentage of your existence. You know, when you're 10, the last 5 years was 50% of your existence. When you're 70, the last 5 years was a much smaller percentage of your existence. Every year is a smaller percentage. It starts to fly by. I mean, my memory is like, oh, that was elementary, or that was middle school, or that was high school, or that was college. And then the last 20, 25 years, I don't know if it was 5 years ago or 20 years ago. It's like all the same chunk of time. It's just so weird how that stuff goes. So, yeah,
but at 70 and 80, the only thing that's going to matter is my health.
That's it.
I mean, yeah, it'll be nice to be financially stable. Yeah, it will. But at 70 and 80, if all my money is going to surgeries and doctors and medical care, then I lost. So I'm not.
And how great would it? Everybody's worried about money and stuff, and it's like, but how great would it be if you can actually continue to be able to work?
Right, exactly.
With whatever you want. And I'm not saying like you have to keep your job for this or that, but it's like, yeah, I'm able to be a bartender at 75 at a tiki club for a little extra. I could do landscaping at 65 or whatever it might be. Like, how great is that you have these options to like get these jobs that you can just quit whatever you want as soon as you got sick of it because you're physically capable to do it. Yep. And I think that some of the key things too that were said, because I think some people, especially when they hear like, it's just not that important to you. It's like, no, it is important. And it is. I think for a lot of people it is. But Aram said it earlier, you were curious. I think that is a huge value that people could maybe start to adopt, to stay curious. You brought up how, this is like new and I'm learning this stuff. People hate learning new things because it's difficult when you learn something new, and you kept doing it until you created a new, basically neural pathway that reminds you, even if I don't want to show up today, this is part of my routine. These are guardrails for my life. Everybody needs routine. So they can say whatever they want about, I just don't want to have that kind of structure. Cool. Well, your structure is you wake up and you sit around and you eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch and you watch Netflix until 10 p.m. That's your structure that you've developed. You created a new structure. You were curious, you were willing, and you dove deep into the internal aspects and seeing therapy to uncover some things. I mean, there's so many layers to that beyond just she was willing to do the work that I think people ignore. And there's just a lot of layers there. So I think it's awesome. I might start crying because of that little mini speech I gave right now. I'm inspired by it. There's more things that people can just so easily dismiss. Like, and you may have even dismissed some of these things that I think are a huge deal. You know, being curious, willing to learn, willing to seek out therapy later in life when most people won't, willing to uncover past traumas and all that stuff. I mean, that's 99% of people aren't willing to do any of those things. And you had a good friend group. The fact that you didn't have any bitches, I'm going to say bitches because that's what they are if they're not your good friend, is amazing. I just don't see that very often with clients that I've worked with, where they're like, no, my friends are super supportive. They're so excited for me. Because what happens most of the time is your friends are excited for you at the beginning. And then at a certain point, they're like, and I've had this multiple times. Yeah, like, same. You're getting too into this.
Yeah, exactly.
And they start like discouraging them. They're so excited at the beginning, and they're like, "Wait, shit, this is real. She's not going to get all the weight back. Fuck." And they do. So
it threatens them.
It threatens them. Like, they're sitting there going, "This is just like last time. She's going to gain the weight back." And then all of a sudden, they see it's this real change, and they start saying those things. That's awesome that you had. Friends, that you have the friends that you have. I mean, it says something about obviously your character, and everything that you did leading up to this transformation obviously shows a lot about your character. So that's awesome.
No, thank you, Sheryl. I mean, this is gold for anybody listening. This is absolutely valuable stuff. And I hope I almost want to just release this episode on a weekly basis for the next year, because I think if people
this will just be Wednesday. What we could do is just take like 10-minute clips. Yeah, 10-minute clips every Wednesday.
It would be such a great perspective for the people that are at halftime, right? Like if you're in your 40s, you're at halftime, probably. Statistically speaking, in America, I think a woman lives there.
I'm a third of the way through, tops, minimum. A quarter?
Was average,
I'm going to 140.
I think average age is for men is what, like just about 82 or maybe 79 or something like that. And I think for women, the life expectancy now is 85 or 86. So if you're in your 40s, you're essentially got 40 years left, which sounds like a lot because the first 40 took a while. But that next 40 is going to fly by because
it goes quick, but it's a whole lifetime.
It's a lifetime.
And it goes by quicker when you're doing nothing. I think that's what people don't realize either. Like, think about a weekend where you did nothing. It's like, geez, this weekend flew by. But when you had all this stuff going on, it's like, geez, that was yesterday? It felt like 3 days ago. And like the days might go by quick at the end of the day, but you did so much stuff. And so many people at a certain point in their life, they're doing the same things every day, and it's nothing. They're not being curious. They're not learning anything new. They're not going on adventures. They're not putting themselves out of their comfort zone. So yeah, it's really going to fly by.
Yeah.
Really going to fly by.
Sheryl, what's one last little nugget that you can give our audience that will hopefully light a little bit of a fire underneath their tuchus?
I think I would speak to women my age and know that just try it. You just got to try it. The rest of the stuff that's out there, that's the quick fix, it's just better just to invest in yourself, because it's going to come tomorrow comes anyway, and next year comes anyway. So you have to invest in yourself now so that you can, this is what you've worked for your whole life, are these years. These are the years that you waited for to do what you want, and you can't climb up the stairs. And it's avoidable. It's really avoidable.
Yeah. And it seems obvious that there's so much benefits from just showing up to the gym for you outside of just weight loss.
Oh, sure.
It seems like there's benefits to it. Yeah, the confidence, all those things, and that's only going to happen from that. You're not going to get that from injections or anything else. Like that routine is, it's awesome. Yeah, injections aren't going to get you walking up steps.
I'm not afraid of muscle. I like muscle. I don't mind it a bit because
Ew.
I have 7 grandkids. I like picking them up. I think it's cool to be able to pick them up. I enjoy it. I don't need help putting my groceries in the car. Those are all good things for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, thank you, Sheryl. I appreciate you sharing your afternoon with us. I appreciate you sharing your story. I will forever be indebted to you and inspired by you, because it and I just want to say one thing that I'll share here, because I think it's just a testament to her character. When I was struggling with the $70,000 loss from the Real Coaches Summit this past year, I just randomly opened up my phone on a random day, and I got a Venmo alert from her. Now, mind you, this is somebody I haven't worked with, and at that point it had probably been a year already. And we had been in contact here and there and exchanged messages from time to time, but no formal coaching, no formal relationship, no transactional relationship, no actual working relationship. But she sent me money out of nowhere and just said, hey, I know that you're in a tough spot. I know that you're struggling. And I also know that I have the resources and the means, and here's just something to help you out. And it wasn't about the money. It was that she would have, if it had cost her $50,000, she would have done it, because it was that much more worth it to her to get her life back. And that really just says who this person is. And we need more Sheryls in the world. So thank you.
I love you, buddy. I miss your face. If I don't make 10,000 steps every day, I still hear you being disappointed. So you're always with me. Always, always.
Good. Well, thank you, Sheryl. And I'm not that far. You're more than welcome to come down whenever you want. I got the nicer home gym now, so we've got some options here. But guys, ladies, gentlemen, please, 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 if there's an episode that you replay 55 times a day, it's this one. And it's just I'm very much tongue-tied today, because this is a very important one for me, and I can't thank you enough. So thank you.
Yeah, let's stop having coaches on. It's getting boring. Let's have people like Cheryl.
Yeah, coaches. I'm sick of coaches too. We need more people like her. It's just very hard to find Cheryls in the world. So if we can have more Cheryls, we would have a lot of success stories. Unfortunately, she's a rarity. So I don't even think you have to ask her our last question.
I think I should ask her the last question. Why not? Doesn't matter if she's not a coach.
Let's do it.
Does Cheryl listen to our episodes all the way through?
I think she does.
Do you know what our final question is, Cheryl?
No.
You don't know what our final question? Wow. Well, I mean, if you listen to the full episodes, then
all the way to the end.
Oh, she probably turns it off after some of your
monologue.
You don't do a lot of your own episodes. A lot of your stuff are guest driven. So,
yeah. Well, we ask every guest the same question at the end so that we can compare and judge them to every former guest. And even though you're not like a coach or anything like that, we're going to ask you the same question. How's your heart rate? How do you feel? You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So, bye.